Well, good evening. I'm your host, Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Podcast. Tonight's podcast is why your nervous system programming controls your inner dialogue. Your inner dialogue is never your thinking. It's your nervous system narrating whatever state it's currently trapped in. Because the body is wired for fear, the mind speaks fear, and the body is wired for vigilance. The mind speaks suspicion. If the body is wired for scarcity, the mind speaks limitation. The dialogue is just the echo. Your nervous system fires first, and the mind rushes in afterwards to justify the sensation. So really what's happening is your nervous system fires, and your mind rushes in to justify that sensation. So like if chaos is going on out here, the nervous system fires first, the mind rushes in to justify the situation from yesterday with a story. That story becomes your inner voice, but it's really just inherited survival codes pretending to be wisdom. The body reacts from the past, the mind explains from the past, the dialogue becomes the past. Savage liberating veracity. Until you regulate the body, the mind can never tell the truth. Your real voice lives in the presence, never programming. When the nervous system calms, the inner dialogue shifts from fear narration to clarity expression. And that's where sovereignty begins. If you want, I can sculpt this into a nuclear. Why change, heal, create, transformation, think, know, learn, knowledge, plan are fossil words. Why change, heal, create, transformation, think, learn, knowledge, plan are fossil words, outdated linguistic relics that keep people loyal to yesterday. Fossil words trap you in linear time. They assume you're broken, behind, or becoming. Words like change, heal, create, learn, change, heal, learn, plan all imply a timeline. Not yet, someday, eventually. The timeline is the cage. It keeps you living as a project instead of presence. Autonomous acumen, veracity. Fossil words keep you improving the past instead of broadcasting the now. Fossil words reinforce identity, maintenance. They keep you loyal to the version of you that needs fixing. Heal assumes you're wounded. Transform assume you're incomplete. Learn assumes you're lacking. Know assumes you need certainty before you move. These words keep you orbiting in the same persona. You're trying to escape, but yet you wake up the same. High frequency clarity. You never evolve the character. You stop speaking its language. You never evolve the character. You stop speaking its language. Fossil words belong to the intellect, never awareness. They keep you thinking instead of broadcasting and innovating. Self-help vocabulary is built for analysis, never liberation. It keeps you in the head narrating your life instead of living it. Autonomous acumen punchline is, as your language rises and modernizes beyond fossil words, your frequency rises beyond the fossil identities. Why your indoctrinated education is unknowingly inherited from a nervous system programming manipulates your inner dialogue. Indoctrinated education trains your nervous system to obey before it ever learns to think. Nervous system, your indoctrinated education trains your nervous system to obey before it ever learns to think. School conditions the body first. Sit still, don't question, follow instruction, seek approval, avoid mistakes. These rules get wired in your nervous system long before your mind forms opinions. Then your inner dialogue mimics that wiring. Never mess up, stay safe, never stand out. Stay safe in doubt, stand out in optimistic, ubiquitous, trailblazer brilliance. Sassy clarity, your thoughts sound obedient because your body was trained to be obedient. See, the world lives in social obedience. And once you really awaken to that, you can see it. Education programs emotional reflexes, and those reflexes become the tone of your inner voice. Grades, evaluation, punishments, and praise shape your nervous system's chemistry. That chemistry becomes your default emotional state. And that emotional state becomes your inner dialogue. A savvy punchline: if school taught you to fear being wrong, your inner voice will speak in fear even when you're right. Indoctrinated education reinforces linguistic patterns that keep your inner dialogue small, cautious, and compliant. The system teaches you to speak in safe, polite, predictable language. That language shapes your identity, and that identity shapes your inner narration. Hellraiser truth: as the system controls your vocabulary, it controls yourself. You go from self-talk to sovereign expression because there's nothing in the mind that can read sovereign expressions. Why self-help, self-improvement, personal growth, punctuated writings, and therapy are fossil modalities. Fossil modalities keep you looping in the past instead of broadcasting from the now. Self-help, therapy, and personal growth all assume the past is the source of your identity, and the future is the destination of your healing. That timeline is a trap. It keeps you analyzing, processing, and revisiting and reframing all past tense rituals. Punctuating writing reinforces linearity, beginning with the middle to end. Autonomous acumen veracity: you can never rise when the modality requires you to stay loyal to yesterday. That's one thing I've noticed about self-help, personal growth, self-improvement, punctuated writings. It wants to keep you loyal to yesterday. Fossil modality strengthen the persona you're trying to escape. Self-improvement assumes that you from yesterday is real and needs upgrades. Therapy often reinforces the same character by exploring its wounds. Personal growth polishes the mask instead of dissolving it. Punctuated writing organizes a persona into neat emotional paragraphs. The highest frequency clarity: you never liberate the character, you stop speaking the character's language. Fossil modalities rely on intellect, not awareness. An intellect can only recycle what it already knows. Self-help teaches you to think more. Therapy teaches you to explain more. Personal growth teaches you to plan more. Punctuated writing teaches you to narrate more. As awareness isn't linear, logical, or past-based, it's immediate, somatic, and sovereign. Autonomous acumen punchline: fossil modalities keep you learning learning. Liberation keeps you listening and expanding through life because you modernize the language and you strengthen your character. While your nervous system programming controls your inner dialogue. Your inner dialogue is just your nervous system narrating its emotional state, never your actual awareness. When the body fires a survival signal, the mind rushes it in to explain it. Even if the explanation is nonsense. That's why the inner voice sounds so urgent, dramatic, and repetitive. Sassy clarity, your thoughts are never your thinking. They're your biology talking. The nervous system repeats familiar emotional patterns, so your inner dialogue repeats familiar stories. If your body is wired for anxiety, the dialogue becomes anxious. If it's wired for vigilance, the dialogue becomes suspicious. And when it's wired for scarcity, the dialogue becomes self-doubting. Savvy punchlines, your inner voice is loyal to your past chemistry, never your present potential. Survival wiring speaks louder than intuition. So the inner dialogue defaults to fear-coded commentary. The nervous system's job is to keep you alive, never to keep you inspired. So it pushes thoughts that maintain safety, predictability, and smallness. Hellraiser veracity, until you regulate the body, the mind can never tell the truth. Why the world is stuck in your nervous system linguistic programming. The nervous system reacts first, and language simply narrates the reaction, not the reality. Most people think they're expressing themselves, but they're actually expressing their biology. Their words are just emotional aftershocks from the body, wired for ancient danger. Sassy clarity. When your nervous system is in survival mode, your language becomes survival poetry. Emotional vocabulary trains the body to repeat the same states, and the states repeat the same stories. Say anxious words, feel anxious, chemistry. Reinforce anxiousness, anxious identity. Say powerless words, feel powerless. Feel powerless, chemistry. Reinforce powerless identity. It's never communication, it's conditioning. The savvy punchline, your language is never describing your state, it's programming it. System feeds predictable language because predictable language keeps the nervous system obedient. And that's something we've really been taught through indoctrinated education, business, everything is to be obedient. Fear-coded words keep people compliant. Scarcity-coded words keep people striving. Conflict-coded words keep people distracted. Conflict-coded words keep people distracted. When the nervous system is triggered, the mind becomes suggestible and the language becomes the leash. Hellraiser veracity. Break the linguistic pattern, the nervous system stops being programmable. Why the world is stuck inside nervous system linguistic programming, the language trap. The world is stuck because it speaks in hand-me-down language instead of sovereign awareness. Every phrase people use is a recycled spell from parents, culture, media, institutions, and grandparents. They think they're communicating, but they're actually repeating. And repetition keeps the nervous system loyal to yesterday's fears, yesterday's meanings, and yesterday's identity. Liberation. While you change your language, you shift your life's frequencies, but you never rise out of yesterday. Language is the tuning fork of your nervous system. Change the words, you change the chemistry. But you liberate the words with liberating lingo, you change the chemistry within you. Your body responds to liberating lingo before your mind interprets it. Responds to language before your mind interprets it. Old words, old states, trigger old states. Old states trigger old choices. Old choices recreate yesterday. As you shift your vocabulary, you shift the emotional frequency, but it's really when you modernize your vocabulary, you energize the emotional frequencies your body broadcasts. Autonomous acumen, audacity. Fresh lingo energizes chemistry, naturalizes novelty. Yesterday's language keeps you loyal to identities you've already outgrown. And that's how I look at, for me, I'm talking about me now. Self-help, personal growth, and a lot of this stuff is just modern, just identifying and using what you've already outgrown. Words like should, try, hope, maybe someday, keep you orbiting the same small self. They reinforce the persona you were trained to be, never the presence you actually are. When you upgrade and modernize your language, you sever the emotional contract with your past identities. Breathing and modernizing your vocabulary, your liberating lingo, it raises you out of the past. The highest frequency clarity. You rise the moment your words stop serving who you used to be. Language is architecture of perception. Shift the structure and the world rearranges itself. Punctuated conditioned language keeps you thinking in linear and past tense loops. Liberating sovereign language rises you to the now. The only place transformation exists, but it's really liberation and energized. When your language changes, your perceptions, when your language rises and modernizes, your perception updates, your nervous system now calibrates, and your frequency rises out of yesterday's gravity. Savage liberation. Well, your life can evolve if your vocabulary is speaking in fossil frequencies. High frequency sassy savvy destroys ancient hardware. The world is running on ancient hardware while pretending it's upgraded. Most people think they're making choices, but their nervous system is just replaying ancestral survival mode reflexes, freeze, fawn, fight, and flee. It's never wisdom, it's inherited wiring. The sassy veracity is humanity is using Stone Age operating systems to navigate a modern world, such as education. Ancestral programming reacts faster than awareness, so people mistake instinct for identity. The nervous system fires before the mind even forms its thought. That means most reactions aren't personal. They're generational echoes. Savvy clarity, people think they're being themselves, but they're just being their great-great-grandparents' fear responses. Survival wiring blocks presence, and presence is the only place where sovereignty lives. Ancestral programming keeps attention, scanning for danger, never opportunity. It keeps people hyper vigilant, under listening, and overreacting. I'm good at that one. I was. I'm getting better. I'm rising out of it. I'm modernizing everything within me. Hellraiser punchline. You can never rise when your nervous system is still trying to survive a world that no longer exists. Nuclear Savage, 7-point expansion. Cowboy Wisdom Outlaw Optimism. No hesitation, no delusion, no domestication. While the world is stuck inside our ancestor nervous system programming and what your liberating frequencies do to bust loose the spell of hell and open up your pell-mell prowess. Your nervous system fires before your mind thinks, meaning most reactions aren't you. They're inherited echoes. You're not overreacting, your ancestors are. How you like that? You're not overreacting, your ancestors are. That's unique. Several wiring mistakes, discomfort for danger, so people avoid growth like it's a predator. Evolution feels unsafe to a system built for caves, never clarity. The body clings to old emotional choreography because it believes repetition. Survival is predictable pain feels safer than unpredictable freedom. How are we more afraid of sovereignty than we are predictable pain? Because sovereignty has no reference to the thinking memory mind. Ancestral fear hijacks perception, making people see threat where there's only possibility. The world isn't dangerous, the world is programming danger. Nervous system inheritance keeps humanity loyal to identities that expired generations ago. People aren't stuck, their lineages. Presence threatens the entire ancestral operating system because presence dissolves fear instantly. The now is the one place that the past can never follow. The now is the one place the past can never follow. Why ancestor nervous system program questions ask comfort zone questions. The ancestor nervous system asks comfort zone questions because safety was once survival and it still thinks you live in the cave. Your lineage survived by avoiding risk and never expanding by consciousness. So your nervous system still whispers, is this safe? Should you stay small? What if you fail? The sassy veracity. Your biology is loyal to survival. Your awareness is loyal to evolution. Comfort zone questions are just ancient fear scripts pretending to be logic. The nervous system fires before the mind interprets, so the body reacts with old fear codes long before clarity arrives. That's why the questions sound cautious and predictable. Savvy clarity. Your questions protect your past more than your future. It shuts out wisdom, its inheritance. See, we've inherited most of our negativity from just life. Ancestral programming keeps you asking small questions because big questions require presence, and presence dissolves the entire survival loop. Comfort zone questions keep you in familiar emotional territory. Liberation questions you to and rises you into the now. Why the past has zero authority. The Hellraiser punchline. As you stop answering nervous system questions, comfort zone questions, your real life opens up fantastically now. Begins through begins through I1 frequencies. Why energetic liberation, energized questions, maverick questions, energized listening, maverick questions, politically incorrect inspirations, cowboy wisdom, autonomous expansion, liberating lingo, revolutionary revelations modernize the nervous system, destroying yesterday's lying limitations. These modalities shock the nervous system out of inherited obedience and force it into present moment wisdom. Energetic liberation, maverick questions, politically incorrect inspiration all interrupts the nervous system's default survival scripts. They break the polite, predictable, and socially approved. Emotional patterns that keep the body looping yesterday's fears and chemistry. When the nervous system is jolted out of the obedience, it updates itself in real time. Autonomous acumen, ferocity. A nervous system in presence can't run the lies it learned in the past. Liberating lingo and cowboy wisdom now write the internal language that keeps limitations alive. Your nervous system listens to your language before your mind does. Old vocabulary, old chemistry, and old identity. Old chemistry equals old identities. Old vocabulary equals old chemistry equals old identity. Liberating lingo, outlaw wisdom, and politically incorrect inspiration replace fossil words with a sovereign frequency. They modernize the nervous system by giving it fresh emotional codes to run. The highest frequency clarity. As your language evolves, your limitations lose their operating system, opening the way for you to enjoy today. Energized listening and maverick questions destroy lying limitation by forcing the nervous system to generate new pathways instead of old repeating ones. Most questions are social obedience questions. Am I allowed? Is this safe? What will they think? Maverick questions flip the script. What if I stop performing this? What happens when how I feel when I'm already free? What was the limitation? What limitation was never real? These questions demand new, fresh neural responses, never recycled fear. Revolutionary revelations emerge because the nervous system can no longer hide behind inherited programming. Autonomous acumen, a nervous system that answers fresh questions, becomes a fresh sovereign expansion. And that's the thing. If you take self out of your life and use sovereign, you shut down the mind's thinking. You quit trying to fit into something that wasn't yours. So that's the thing. All this is giving you a liberating voice to rise out of the past to enjoy the now. Now, I want to thank you, and may your life be as blessed as you are a blessing to me and the world.